Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl, Nadi, aka Queen Goddess Hope, recording this January 19th, 2025 on the Gregorian calendar. TikTok has just been shut down. People are wild out, and they're upset about CapCut also being dismantled. It's so funny how people just don't know the origins of certain things. I'm kind of glad that I chose Meta to have all my data. Meta and Google, yeah, that's pretty much it. I decided that I wouldn't be a lawyer, although they tried to push me into being a lawyer as a kid. And reading the fine print, because 9 times out of 10 we check in the box and moving on. But I'd always been against TikTok. Something in my spirit when I found out China was the ringleader of the app, I was just like, chucking up the deuces. And then it's still the audacity for me that they have the inauguration set for Martin Luther King Day. I just knew Kamala was going to be the president because it was going to be Martin Luther King Day. I guess they didn't want that much energy harvested, but here's my direct notion of the reason for that. They are changing the black fist to the white fist because remember, Trump did the fist after he allegedly had got shot in the ear or whatever. Wallow, 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 wallow. If you glad the LOX is rough right now, wallow. I don't know why. I just started channeling that song. When I thought about the fist, mark my words. They already tried to remove the Black Panther from the searchy with the movie. Not saying that it was wrong, but come on, man. We know what the real Black Panther is. But that's fine. Let me move on. I don't want to talk about that. It's not really why I came on here. Peace. Shout out to y'all. Y'all need to start liking my videos more, subscribing. Also, check out my channel on Rumble. I am QGH. We're starting to put some content over there because I've already been flagged on a tube. One time too many. One time is good enough for me, so we gotta have to back up to the backup. Hear me? I do have multiple pages on Rumble, but I am QGH will be the main page because I don't know my password to the other one. So typically on Saturn days, I go down a rabbit hole of my choice based upon a topic, whatever. And I'm not really one for like television during the week. I try not to. If I do, it's usually in mindless TV to distract me from being on a computer all day. And I had rose up Saturday and I just sat in stillness for a little while, just thanking God for the day, just really being in my own thoughts, allowing my mind to wake up. They say you should listen to like binaural beats, the AM alpha beats, something like that, to kind of get your brain to start moving accordingly, which is fire, is mad dope to do. Actually, shout out to B for that one. But the first thing I did after I did that was grab the remote because I just wanted to see what was on TV. And I don't have cable. I subscribe to the apps that are on a computer. On the television, which is now a computer. But I started watching this movie, Ghost in the Soul, with Scarlett Johansson. And I'm like, yo, Lucy is like the female version of Will Smith. Like, low key, she's the female version of Will Smith. Scarlett Johansson, I call her Lucy because she is Lucy forever in my mind now. But she's starting a lot of futuristic movies that are foreshadowing events to come. And Ghost in the Soul was about, I think it was set in Shanghai, somewhere out in China. And they basically had neural links in their mind. They could talk to one another using telepathy, and they didn't have to be close proximity. She was able to talk to people way across town. Like, it was wild. They called her Major. She was a major deal. So basically, it was like Get Out mixed with the Neuralink, and they basically kidnapped a group of like orphans or runaways and made them into these beings. They basically dismantled their bodies and used their brains to be put into a robot that was basically indestructible. And it showed you the technology of them using medical devices to cure people in minutes. This is probably like the third or fourth movie that I've watched with that technology, so I already know that it exists. In what country? Not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if like the military or if the government uses it in some way, shape, or form, which is dope. And if it is that dope, then I really think that it should be public and allow those who can afford it or those who are willing to pay for it have the service. But we already know that there's mass money in the medical system. But I don't want to talk on that too much because that's what got me flagged in the first place. Ooh, Chad, I on my heels. Moment of silence for the clown faces. That's enough. And this movie was really profound. Ultimately, it kind of gave me a version of like The Matrix meets whatever movie I said before. Oh, the Neuralink meets something else. It's late, y'all. It's like almost 1 a.m. My brain don't really function that good at this time, but I love it because it's so quiet. But just watching how my brain actually works now, it's like I can't even see certain things normal or quote unquote three-dimensional. So a couple of things that I had done today, just based upon that one movie, which I highly recommend. It's on Pluto TV. Very, very great movie. Just again, speaking about the Neuralink, speaking about telepathy and having supernatural powers. She also was able to go invisible. So it was almost as if she had these superhuman abilities, but the only thing that was real on her was her brain. And it makes me wonder, it started making me wonder about, I even thought about Spider-Man while watching this movie. To watch something like that when you first rise up, probably within like the first half an hour of me rising up, your brain accepts it in a different way, truth be told. I try to keep off of my cell phone at least until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, usually on the Sabbath, and really just allow myself to kind of be immersed in whatever it is that I'm doing, whether if it's I'm discovering a rabbit hole or if I'm doing ancestry archive dives. So considering my ancestry membership just expired I usually do like 6 months out of the year, and then every Saturday I'll try to dive into, whatever I discovered. This last 6 months though, sidebar, I've discovered so much family just by doing this at least 2 to 3 times a month. Like, oh my gosh, it's been immaculate. To kind of know a little bit about your history and who you are and why you feel like you're this prominent, divine being. And I thought about Spider-Man, to go back to the movie, because I always have been told that spiders are your ancestors. And when I was a kid, my brother used to collect them. He used to put them in a shoebox. He used to drive us crazy. And then he used to show us, like, look, guys, got like 6 spiders in here. And they'd be like different daddy long legs, all this jazz. So, just my brain thinking about her in these superhuman states. And then because she was always diving off of these buildings, I had thought about Spider-Man, like, dang, what if we really do get bit by a spider and can have these superhuman abilities? I'm always talking about how we should get out in the sun and really enjoy the elements more, because the solar flares are giving us downloads, and information and activating our gifts. And then I think about cities that are, highly populated, with buildings that really don't have too much sunlight beaming on us. It's just wild to me, because how are you getting the DNA downloads? So back to the superhuman abilities that Lucy had. She had mad different abilities, and it really just got me thinking, like, okay, there's something significant about this being set in China. And we always know that they have vast amounts of technology. I always heard like cell phones were super dope out there. Just way more advanced than what we have here in the United States. And, thinking about the Crackberry when it first came out, oh my goodness, just knowing that a lot of these devices were made out in China. And, if we wanted to download like certain types of apps, or whatever that was related to the BlackBerry, they were also Chinese. So it just kind of got got me thinking, like, dang, I should do a deep dive into China right now. But before I did that, I started digging into Black economics a little bit. There was a forum that just recently closed. I wish I remember the link. I think it was the BEA Solutions, Black Empowerment Association Solutions Summit, something like that. And I had watched 2 of their forums that they had that was like super dynamic and just very, very eye-opening and telling about, where we are headed as a people, as a collective, and how many of us don't have the resources or the financial literacy to really 10x us into the next level, because everyone keeps saying that this is the most prolific wealth transfer that's happening. And it is mainly because a couple of things, actually, and this is just my personal interpretation. You have about 10,000 people turning 65 every single day. So that means that the baby boomers are aging, but they're retiring, which is why they say Social Security won't be around too much longer. Because it's just impossible to fund 10,000 people every day retiring. And just thinking about some of the average lifespan, people are not living right now past 70, let's call it, right? So if these people are about to, some of them have amassed wealth over time, some of them have pensions, government employees, they have Social Security, life insurance policies, real estate, things that they've acquired over the last 65 years, whether if it be from their parents transitioning and now they have the wealth and so on and so forth. So, a lot of people are going to either walk into massive amounts of wealth in the next couple of years, or they're going to amass this wealth through real estate. And it's really going to be a telltale sign about who really had financial literacy and who didn't. I had recently heard a story that someone left their grandkids all of the money and not their children. and so their children was upset. And I'm like, I could understand why they would leave it to the grandkids. People do that so that when they get to a certain age, they be able to handle it as such. But, I for one believe that there was a trust fund hidden from me, or is still hidden from me, that was supposed to be given to me at a certain age, but it wasn't. And it's like when you start thinking about, resources and things that are still held away from the people who know what to do with it, it just makes your mind go crazy because of greed and jealousy, right? So now, thinking about this fact and thinking about how quick, people will start transitioning, and then thinking about the vaccines and thinking about, people, athletes, a lot of athletes, having heart failure, it's just multiple layers of sickness and health and death that's going to be surrounding us, ill health, that's going to be surrounding us in the next coming days, months, years. And it's really going to be eye-opening because it's going to show us what people value. And I hope and pray that people that are listening to this really take heed to these messages. Some of us can only lead the the horse to the water, but the rest is up to you. And I could be completely honest, where I've had amassed wealth and got rid of it, and amassed it and got rid of it. And, the second go round, you invest it how you're supposed to. And then next thing you know, it's like, they want me to take this money out. And not knowing, if you know, I know now that I could have just taken loans out on my own money as opposed to just pulling out all of the money, so with trial and error, you just start learning more and more and more. And I love it because you just learn how to be a little bit more mature. You just learn how to manage money in a white man's world, and you really learn how to navigate through this system. And going back to China, ciao. So, I started talking about another rabbit hole that I went down about who is truly the United States competitor. And I remember as a kid, we were at a Bible study with my dad, and he's, having a pre-Bible study before the Bible study, and with the congregation, and he was like telling us how there's going to be two major nations that are going to rise up. And as a kid, I was like, China, and he was like, nobody knows. And I was like, okay, it's China. And this was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I was more tapped into my gifts than I could have ever imagined. And they always say, like, kids are the closest to source. And I also did a deep dive into that too, and just really understanding that there are two powers that be that will have to rise up, King of the North and King of the South. Now, something that was so significant about learning about China today was that the market cap for, consumption and consumerism, and how the United States probably earns 30 to 35 trillion dollars on consumerism, right? And China was at like 17 trillion dollars. Russia was at like 1.5 trillion. So in the public, it may look like we're going directly up against Russia, but in reality, think about BRICS. You got these countries coming up against the United States petrodollar, because Russia provides oil to the world, and when the United States gave a sanction to Russia, it cut off their supply of oil. So if we can no longer receive or supply oil from this country, then what did Putin do? He decided to call his friends. And now India and Saudi Arabia are like, yeah, we'll work with you, as well as China. So now this whole system is deciding to go up against the United States and their petrodollar, because for those of you who do not know, the only way that you could buy any oil in any of the world was with the United States dollar. So with 45 being in office, it's going to be a fact where the market is going to probably tank, and then that shit is going to print. And it's all going to be about oil and gold and making the United States dollar more stronger than it is, because if people are walking away from the dollar, that means one of two things: the country is not as strong as you think it is, or your debt is not looking too favorable. And one thing that we have to understand is that the way that rich countries or countries that are in power do debt is way different from the way humans do debt. And I know that sounds like weird, like what are you talking about? But just thinking about, the United States, how it is a debt slave society, that's the whole entire point of the ball and chain. If a company has amassed such wealth, the key thing is tax write-offs, right? So they're trying to lower their tax rates so that they don't have so much taxes to pay. But the average person, may have so much debt, and they pay taxes on that, right? You pay property tax, you pay school tax, you pay interest, you pay tax on gasoline and food and da-da-da-da-da, you pay tax. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they balance this out, because if everyone in the world knows that the United States has a debt problem, a war has to break out in order to see who the new reigning country will be. And at one point we turned around and everything was made in China. So what does that tell you? The king of the north and the king of the south will rise up. People hate that so many people keep talking about the Bible and how we should throw it away, but there are some things that are coming to pass. I don't even know if Nostradamus wrote it or whomever wrote it. We know that there are books in the Bible that were removed. And some of those things you can find on YouTube and go down rabbit holes for that. The Book of Enoch is wow, right? But then there are books that I believe by women that are also removed, and people don't want to admit that, So it's like this thing goes real deep. But king of the north, king of the south, Antichrist, right? And again, this is for entertainment purposes only. To me, I believe that Musk is the Antichrist, or Schwab is the Antichrist. So depending on which one of those two people that's going to rise up, we have to really see how this is going to play out, because there are going to be people who will really need to step into their calling and understand what role they are to play in this war. Because while there may be a physical war going on, there's definitely a spiritual one taking place as well. So how likely are you to join in either one? And this is where you have a light and a dark, because the light is the spiritual and the dark will be the physical. That's just my personal interpretation. Because there's always has to be a light and a dark. There always has to be some type of balance, right? You can't have too much of the positive. You can't have too much of the negative. It has to be a balance. So it just depends on who's going to be in power. But I'll tell you this, The whole entire point is that we get enough people onto the light that the dark has no choice but to surrender to the light. Okay? At some point, we all have to reach a certain state of consciousness in order for us to be blessed and thrive. So that's really what is going to determine the next step in this world. You know, I'm looking at the chaos called Facebook timeline, and I'm like, how the hell did so much toxicity get on my page? And 9 times out of 10, all the toxicity comes from these men with these prolific, super magnificent, super pro black names. And I'm like, y'all cannot be the alleged chosen race of people and be stuck in low vibrational shit. It just has to stop, because when they're no longer on my page, they're gonna be confused. And this is why I don't be accepting these friend requests in real life. Like, it's just too much at this point, because I don't want to see that shit on my timeline. Do you know how many people get snoozed? Do you know how many people get unfollowed? Because I just don't want to see it. People got to get up out of that low vibrational chakra energy, and that's that dark side. You know, today I was watching about the 12 stages of a human. Child, that shit was eye-opening. I might have to watch it again tomorrow. That shit was mind-blowing. I guess I just remembered everything, because I'm literally was so deep in a rabbit hole today. I watched like 12 hours of just rabbit hole. And for those of you who do not know what a rabbit hole is, I implore you to just think about crazy topics that you have always wondered about, and just type them into your favorite search engine, or type them into YouTube, and just educate yourself on these topics, and let one video roll into another video, and then maybe something that was said in that video sparks another thought, concept, idea, and then you searching into that video, and then that shit just keep going, and next thing you know, you days, months, weeks into a whole ass rabbit hole that you need to dig yourself out of. Alice in Wonderland vibes. I need to watch that movie too again, but I'm just not ready. So, thinking about the 12 steps of a human being, right? And there, I feel like when I was watching that, I felt like I was in the 9th phase of the 12. And I was actually proud to be known as a ascendant master teacher, professor, you know, type of energy, because I know that I've done the work. I've known that I've dug into my shadow self, which is probably the first realm of being, and recognizing that we are on a 3-dimensional plane. So, you know, the second is that, don't quote me on all of these specific steps, I'm just kind of paraphrasing. And the second would be like that incubation womb energy, you know, right before you get birthed into that 3D realm. And they were kind of saying, like, you know, we are afraid of death because we don't know what our soul's next phase or journey would be. And they were like, think about how the alleged stories. Oh, I just remembered the video I wanted to watch. Think about the alleged stories when they say people transition, and they always talk about how they saw white light. And in this next phase of 4, they talk about how you go into this new realm, and depending on your soul, it gave me Ma'at energy, Anubis energy, how right before they allowed people into the underworld, you had to weigh your heart against a feather. So depending on what your vibration was, it would allow you to just immediately ascend to the 5th realm, into the 5th dimension. And how during that phase, you're in that stillness. It's like a cool stillness. You're not sure where you are. It's dark, it's gray, but it's just a stillness. And it was the perfect duality of light and dark energy. But the difference was that it was in harmony with one another. So because this place was just, you're kind of like in limbo, it was like your soul was in limbo. So I don't remember what 6 or 7 was. But I know that 6 I felt was like protected by some type of beings, maybe some like type of archangels or something like that. I feel like the archangels was an 8, but it was basically another level of ascension, and it just talked about how you had to have your mind. I think that was the most critical part. Your mind had to reach certain states of consciousness before you could elevate to the ninth, of the ascended masters, and anything 9 through 12 was the closest that you could be to source. So your goal is to consistently elevate your mind, your consciousness to reach 12, which would be self-actualization if we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it is just a state of consciousness. They talk about Christ consciousness, something like that. So just thinking about these 9, 10, 11, 12 dimensions, and thinking about how I now just automatically see certain things differently based upon the amounts of rabbit holes that I've been down. Yesterday afternoon, I was not Saturday this time, but Friday. This is when the rabbit hole started because Archaic's Fire channel on YouTube, he had Chad and Michelle Gibson, I want to say her name was, talking about the trees, the huge trees. Now, let me tell you something about these gigantic trees. They've been in my life for a little while now. Someone had put it on my radar. And then I think when I went to Cali, we was talking about, I think they're sequoias and the redwoods. I feel like that's what it was. And how these trees were massive trees. But then somebody had put it on my radar that there are gigantic tree stumps all around the world, but we'll never notice it as such. And then I see this thing come across my screen yesterday about the Matrix, was a documentary. And then in this 2-hour freaking YouTube live, they started talking about the trees again. I said, all right, y'all keep showing me this for a reason, and now I have to pay attention to it. So, long story shorter, I was in Costa Rica Memorial Weekend of 2024 on the Gregorian, and we had went to a hot spring. Now, this is the second time I have been to a hot spring. The first time I had went on a hot spring or in a hot spring was when I was in Iceland at the Blue Lagoon. And they always talk about how there was other amazing hot springs, but when I was at the Blue Lagoon, the temperature was between 90 and 92 degrees at that time. So the water in Costa Rica where we were, I forget the name exactly, was about the same temperature. And then there were other springs that would get hotter and hotter. So anyone who knows what a hot spring is, basically just natural springs, but they are warmed from the earth's core, and usually nearby there is a volcano. Child, they said the damn volcanoes were tree stumps, and I lost it because I cannot tell you, but when we were in Costa Rica, we had drove so close to that freaking volcano, and I took a picture of it, and I just stood there in awe. That shit was huge. If I could find a picture, I'm gonna post it up on the screen. That shit was huge. And I was just like, there's no way this is real. Like, no way this is real, how big this volcano was. It was massive. So the fact that that could have possibly been a tree stump just shows you. The fact was, where or how did they destroy the trees? Alcatraz was also a tree stump. Looking at that shit. Wild. There were so many other places. They always say the Grand Canyon was one too. There's a place in the UK, also another one. There were so many other ones. I'm not even going to go too deep into that because I really want you to do your own research or just watch their video. I'll try to remember to put it at the bottom because it was so good. I literally watched this all afternoon. And then I had watched a couple of videos on their channel, but just thinking about this word giant and how the word giant keeps coming up in my timelines, footage, whatever you want to call them. It's just insane at this point, because why do they keep pointing my attention to the topic of giants? And I'm so little. It's just wild that this is where we are, and so much information has been suppressed and lied and, taught to us differently. I keep hearing about how I think Texas and even Florida are taking certain books and curriculums out of history, and I'm like, maybe they know something. We're upset that they're removing slavery from the books, but I'm like, anyone that knows Dane Calloway, he talks about how there was no such thing and how we were already here. And that is also true. In this tree topic, they were talking about how, I want to say in the 1700s and the 1800s, all around the US, there were things that were paid homage to the original people of the land or the Moors. And it was like black this, black that, blackity, black, black on, black. And I was just like, man, I just never understood how these things keep being suppressed. And all we really need is just some acknowledgement. Okay, so we were upset with Kamala about having Megan Thee Stallion, but we are really upset that Snoop, Soulja Boy, and Rick Ross were all at Trump's crypto ball on Friday night. All of these people spoke out about him so bad, and then they performed at the inaugural ball. Mind you, everybody that was in attendance was talking. Nobody was really paying attention. What else does that tell you? We're still the entertainment. I literally just said this the other night. I don't want to be known as an entertainer. I want to be known for my spiritual gifts, my intuitiveness, and my thoughts. Things that I have to use my brain for. Not saying that you can be a performer and just not use your brain by creating music, but that is a form of worship. Think about the highest angel there was. I forgot his name. I won't say it. I just thought about it. But they say that he was the highest form of angel and he was the music conductor, right? So if he is able to be the conductor of music, what do you think that these people are going to do? They're going to worship the people who are the musicians. And this is exactly why they sell out arenas. And this is exactly why that becomes an energy field. Even sports arenas. Oh, that was another topic that was on that thing yesterday about the documentary of The Matrix. About sports arenas being like batteries and ley lines. Just nerd shit, yo. Shout out to the nerds. Cause baby, they gonna need us. It's just so many things that are happening, and I've been considering changing cities again, and I'm like, I don't have a lot of stuff in this city, but I just want to get simpler. And I'm like, damn, I really would love to take some of this stuff with me, but then the other part of me is like, should you just give it away? Should you just give it away? Like, does it really, really matter if you have it or not? It's just stuff. You can accumulate it back. You can get new things. How do I separate myself from materialism and continue to draw closer to the Most High? Because I know that the only thing that I could take with me to the next realm is myself. Don't get me wrong, the flyest. Listen, I had a Mercedes 8 years, something crazy long. And that's the flyest automobile I've ever had in my life. And people always talk about how, oh, it's a status symbol. No, that shit is a fine automobile. And when you kind of drive certain things that you just love, you're like, I don't even see the car as a status symbol. I literally see it for the safety features, or the sound system inside of it. Just certain things that just make you feel protected. And I talk about how the black woman is not really protected, and just thinking about, okay, if my home is not a sense of protection, and if my vehicle is not a sense of protection, where am I protected? So if I have to buy something temporary, such as a vehicle, and it makes me feel that I'm protected because of its safety features, then let me just be. I do like the Volvos. I felt like that was the most comparable, to that. I had a tow truck driver tell me, he was like, you should consider, I don't even remember what those cars, Infinity or Lexus. And I'm like, if I get a Lexus, I want that two-door coupe. That shit is fly. I had drove that for a weekend, and I was just like, yeah, this is the one, or something. And then Volvo, I had owned one. But I say that all to say, just thinking about these items, that I was staring at while I'm watching this 12 dimension video, I'm like, dang, looking around at my possessions, like, nigga, you could sell all of this shit and go on a flight to Thailand and live there happily ever after, trading. The end. Like, create your own reality. Are you really that in love with these newspaper pants? Like, how many times can you really wear that? And it's true, like, I love them, they're my fave. And but I'll just leave whole room and just martin them. Peace out. Sometimes you just need that meditation and that peace, because that's all that I'm really looking for, is the peace part. Am I really ready to part with the things that don't give me peace? Because the cars, the houses, while I know that they're telling us that we need to accumulate wealth during these next couple of years to survive, and I'm like, these people gonna 86 the earth before we even get a chance to accumulate any of the wealth. These people are going to be ignorant rich, and they just don't have the sympathy for what's happened to the world around them. It's really, really sad. The only thing I can do is pray that the people do what's best for their souls and figure out ways to survive on this planet. Because if they're not even telling you the truth about wars and who really fought in them, if they were even really fought, a moon landing, What's beyond the Arctic Wall? Why does the British own a portion of it? Why are they fighting for islands that are just basically tree stumps because of the energy that it emits? You know, thinking about places that we are living, why are certain monuments or castles or cities built on certain type of mountains? Like, I remember living in Reno. I lived in a mountain. And I just felt so at peace there. And I was by myself. And then I had prayed and I was like, yo, I love it here, but I'm here by myself, clear across the country. If something happened, no one could save me. And at that time, bodies were starting to pop up from the Hoover Dam because it was the water levels were decreasing. And it was just so hot that summer. And then that was even before the solar maximus, which is wild. And then I was like, yeah, God, you know, if I'm not meant to be here, give me a sign. That night, I want to say maybe like a week later, it wasn't long, the alarms just started blaring like so loud. I had a security door, like alarm, you know, house alarm. That shit started blaring. I couldn't turn it off. And then what was crazier, it was in the wall, hammered or glued, something crazy like that. And you know, I didn't have no damn tools in the house. What did I look like? And that shit was blaring loud. And no neighbors. I tried to call cops, fire alarm. Like, you know, it had the 3 buttons on there: ambulance, 911, firefighter. Dialed all of them shits, nothing. There was a phone number on the alarm box, called that chick. She picked up immediately. I was like, do you mind sending somebody over to do this? And she was like, yeah, I don't mind. And nobody ever came. And that was the second time that I had, well, that was the first time actually, that now that I'm thinking about it, the incident that happened on Christmas Day was the second. Like, nobody knew that this alarm was going off like that. And I was like, okay, we're moving. And I was out of that bitch in less than 30 days. You don't need to tell me too long, too much times. You know, when you ask for a sign from the universe, they will give you that shit. It's up to you to decide how you're going to maneuver, match, and move. Fight or flight. I'm getting flashbacks making me uncomfortable. But the fact remains, like, we really have to get to a place where you have to find safety, because clearly there is none. You got, again, baby boomers retiring in the 10,000s every single day. Like, that's insane. Where are they going to put all these seniors? Are people going to take them into their homes? Are they going to all be put in nursing homes? Because that's really where the bag is. I ain't even going to hold you. Those people is robbing people hand and foot, all because they know that there are 2 family members. One is the matriarch, one is the patriarch, who are both working class citizens. The mother doesn't even stay home with her children anymore. She doesn't raise them. She doesn't know what a soft life looks like, or a soft nervous system, or having an ease of life. She doesn't know what that feels like, looks like, because she has now taken on masculine energy and she is depleted. And now that no longer is discriminatory to only black people. Because think about it. When we were on these slave plantations down in the South, black women were picking cotton right next to their men. They have never experienced what it feels like to be truly at rest. And that's why my soul craves it so much to this day. And this is why I'm like, black women need to walk away from corporate, because we are the creators of the universe. And if we are not given the capability to create life because we aren't in a relaxed state enough to want to create life, because all we think about is how are we gonna pay for this extra mouth. It's no longer about life and legacy. The only thing that we really can do is just continue to manifest or pray or whatever it is that you do to the Most High, to your God, for that guidance. I said a prayer like, I remember I used to ask God to order my steps, and I had got away from that because I just was ordering my own steps. And I remember I was so impulsive. If somebody wanted me to do something, I'd be like, all right, cool, let's do it. I never took the time out to seek higher wisdom. I ran a business for 10 years. Half of that was with the wisdom and the other half wasn't. And it got bigger and it got bigger. But I didn't even know what to do with it because I took out the wisest counsel. I'll never forget one time my uncle, I picked him up from Newark Penn Station and we were sharing a car. I had it during the week. He had it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And and it worked out because I had a little like boo thing, and he would just drive me around on the weekends. So one weekend I'm in a V, picked up my uncle from Penn Station so he can bring me back home, and he was like, don't forget on your journey to put and keep God first. And at that time, God wasn't in my life, but I knew that he existed, and I just didn't call him God anymore. I called him the Most High, or Source, or Universe. And it didn't matter. The message was still the same, because I had stopped going to church. And I just realized it was such a big institution or organization that I could no longer unsee what I saw within the church. Same like how now I look at cities as semiconductors in a computer. I took electronics in high school, and we used to build these motherboards for lights. We used to make like our own lamps and light bulbs and shit. It was dope. But thinking about that, I see buildings that way now. If you look at them from an aerial view or eagle bird's eye view, if you look at anything from above, use some Google Earth, it looks like a computer. It makes me think about the whole Neo theory all over again, the Matrix. Are you going to take the blue pill to stay inside the shit show, or are you going to ascend to a higher consciousness? Wild out. You have to decide really what you want. I kind of want to go to sleep now. I'll continue with the rabbit hole convo later though. Peace. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, whatever. I'll probably chop this up later to put it on different platforms, but I hope you got something from this, regardless of what type of wisdom that is, imparted on you. Just do it free, and do it free as fuck.